Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Happy Wednesday. Today is June 19th, 2024. It's Juneteenth. As a matter of fact, happy Juneteenth to all that celebrate and observe the day, which ultimately is, as I understand it anyway, the commemoration of the last state or, I don't know if it was the state, but certainly plantation that was notified of their freedom from slavery. I think it's always been quite an interesting ideal, for many reasons, of course, but the celebration of it piques different contemplation and consideration, even how that energy from then is so much more transferable now to the awakening of divine beings and souls and creation overall, to their sovereignty, their righteous autonomy, and all around deliverance from the snare of enslavement and the captors thereof. And that is certainly not limited to race, culture, or even nation, which is why I say it piques a different perspective of thought, of consideration, on a larger scale. But certainly happy Juneteenth to those that celebrate with a very personal connection, for sure. And there's a young comedian, his name is Josh Johnson. I think it's Johnson is his last name. But anyway, I may actually post his bit about the holiday and about the observance, because it was kind of funny, but actually really informative as well too. I even learned some things about it that I didn't know before watching it. So I'll post that below and probably on the community tab. He basically is titled Explaining Juneteenth to White People. Which obviously, like I said, I learned something, so it's funny. The title is captivating, but I'm sure you may even be enlightened to something that you didn't know before as well. So, all right, let's see what we got here today. Somebody in the fields. Go figure. Oh, stop it. Spirit play too much. Seven of Pentacles here. This is like sowing for the long haul, or having sown for a long time, and taking inventory of what you have harvested. And this card can go either way, so we'll keep it open, but it's definitely about, it's about long-term investments, but not having yielded, in this case with the Nine of Swords, perhaps not being altogether satisfied with what has been produced. So it could be somebody that invested a great deal of time, energy, focus, attention on something, into something, and now after some time, considerable time has passed, they are taking inventory, taking stock of what they have have ultimately acquired or produced. And it's either saying that the means may not have justified the end, or that there's a great deal of work and sowing left to do to ultimately harvest the desired outcome, or manifest the desired outcome. Oh, well, there's the work. There's the Eight of Pentacles. What's behind here? The Knight of Pentacles, that's a slowdown, a slow return or a delayed return. And here's the Four of Cups. Yeah, somebody is not happily accepting of, yeah, it's like somebody did a whole bunch of work and they took their time. It's just, to me, it's just given somebody did a lot and they didn't yield the results that they feel that would justify all that they have worked for. And they are not very accepting of this reality. You know, it's just like the Four of Cups feels more like someone rejecting an outcome, like maybe in disbelief or stubborn about something. Something about being stubborn here. And refusing to see something for what it is, or at least accept something for what it is. And then the Knight of Wands. A lot of low level energy here. Nothing high, no majors at all yet. The Knight of Wands and the Two of Pentacles. Two of Wands, yeah, like 2, 2, 4, and even as the only half decent card above 5 in this case is the Eight of Pentacles, but that's speaking to someone's hard work and dedication, maybe even toil and labor, I would say, which is why someone just refuses to believe, like, for all of that, this is all I get. To still face imbalance. You know, someone definitely had a plan to, somebody actualized a plan that should have advanced more security than this, but somehow it didn't turn out that way. I don't know. I'm gonna put everything back today because all of that energy is whoop, and look what fell out. Justice, and that's the Devil card. Now, I'm picking it up in reverse, but Devil energy. We got Hangman, somebody stuck in a contract or bound by their stubborn ambitions to insist upon a result. That's what it's given, insanity. That's what it's given. Somebody that was overly committed to having it their way. You know, they had a plan, they executed the plan. Well, they had a plan, they initiated the plan, they relentlessly executed it, they, you know, maintained steady momentum in that regard. Took inventory of their results, then went in again, planted again and again, and there was just an incessant effort on someone's part. And there it is with the Four of Cups, that no matter what results they continue to yield, they refuse to see the call for readjustment. It's like, no, this has got to work. No, this has got to work. It has to work, and it has to work this way. Obsession, insanity, and maybe perhaps some type of lower worldly possession. Oh, Wheel of Fortune. Well, that's the end of that. Yeah, reckless behavior, incessant, impulsive, compulsive, overambitious, unyielding. That's the frequency here. And now the Five of Pentacles. Hasn't led to much of anything. Chariot card could be, yeah, I was just about to say, it could be some type of arrested development is what I just heard. Arrested development. I know that used to be a show, but I'm not even sure what that term really means. I do have my phone here, though. I could look it up. But the Judgment card is here. So like I said, that's the end of that. And the Two of Cups is a new contract or renegotiation. But there's a Two of Swords where somebody is either not interested, not available. And the Three for reconciliation or reunion. And that's the Ace of Swords. All right, so let's see what else we got here. I guess that's why. Something shady here. Trying to get away from imbalance. Oh, exposure. Not wanting to be exposed for their insanity and the acts that were incited on account of this imbalance here. Somebody's unstable. So it could be what someone was compelled to do to as a reaction against, a counter reaction against some perhaps material instability, some corruption that took place to acquire. That definitely goes back to the first spread, that somebody was corrupted in their efforts to avoid or to, if not avoid, to pull themselves out of poverty, or certainly just some state of imbalance where there's a void of stability here. But the efforts, the measures taken with the Seven of Swords were not upright, and now the Sun is here that could be exposing that. Or there could be just some type of spotlight or I don't know. There could be some type of spotlight on that in some way, shape, or form, or at least that it's being exposed in a way that nullifies these efforts to be productive anymore. Maybe that's perhaps why someone's in a stuck position where whatever it is that they've been doing isn't working anymore. And they may even be a bit confused about it with the Two of Pentacles, like how, why? This is full proof. I have proven results. I have receipts. Yeah. I'm the magician, for crying out loud. I can manifest any outcome I desire. But there's a new threat, or I'll say a heightened threat to their power, let's say it that way. Wow, yeah, the Nine of Wands, because they've done too much, and someone's on account of their incessant efforts has actually drawn a watchful eye to them because they've engaged in too much. And so now they're having to actually be more protective about the actions that they take, because it's like people are on to them, or they're kind of too exposed at this point to be able to just, like the magician, sleight of hand, abracadabra, create illusions right before your eyes. The audience is not so captive anymore. It's like performing for an audience here with the Seven of Wands that already knows the secrets of all your tricks. They've seen them all before. Hell, maybe they debunked them, or they know them themselves. They got magic kits, magic trick kits for kids. I know, because I bought my son one time, and some of the tricks was hard for me to do, but I digress. The point is, it kind of shows you the trade secrets behind the illusion. And that's what someone's did. Like, they're no longer able to be the master of illusions in a certain type of way. And what they're refusing to accept is that the audience is just as masterful now, or at least just as wise and knowledgeable. So somebody's kind of like all out of tricks at this point, at the Nine of Wands. And maybe even the audience itself is in an uproar, like wanting their money back, or wanting, wanting some type of refund for how they may feel they've been ripped off. There's the Chariot again. Some type of authority or enforcer is what I just heard. Regulator, maybe. Ooh. against the corruption. That's like the curtain call right here. Like bringing an end to the show. Interesting here. So where someone thought they were getting away with something at the Seven of Swords. And you know what it is? It's like someone did get away with something. This is past, present, and maybe impending future, if not already. But someone did get away with something, maybe on leaving others penniless, or leaving those dissatisfied with what they invested in terms of whatever illusion was created by way of that Seven of Swords. And this is, as I said, someone incessantly doing something over and over. So this is like, let's say, you know how like those carnivals used to travel from town to town with their sideshow or whatever, right? And this is like you leave one town, and back in the day they could do that because word didn't really travel as fast, of course, as now, you know, where somebody might put the word out like, just don't even go to that show, or don't buy into that wizard or whatever the case may be, because he's a fraud or a snake oil salesman type of energy. That's what is given. So they leave one town, drain them dry. People don't realize until after they've already gone that what they were selling was BS or worthless, or like I said, snake oil. So they show up at another town, but what they didn't intend is for the word to travel so quickly, and people are already kind of on guard, like like almost running them out the town, and the authorities are kind of like already waiting on the case to shut the show down before it even really, begins. Something like that here. I'm saying it figuratively, but it has obviously a deeper meaning than that. Oh, wow. Nine of Swords. So before this could even get started, and you know what it is? It's not only has it been shut down in the next town, but now it's like somebody's whole operation has been dismantled so that they can't even just pack up and move to the next. It's like now either the word is out, or it's like the authorities confiscating all the magic paraphernalia, all of the tricks, all of the props, all of the whole set, maybe even somebody's vehicle to get to the next town type of energy. Like the whole sideshow gets sideswiped to nothing. So someone does, and this could even be like an incarceration card right here, but somebody doesn't even have, before at least they had the potential of being able to take their show on the road or take it elsewhere, or go glamorize the next part of town, or clear across the nation or world or whatever. But here it's like they don't even have the facility, the tools, the resources, the setup, like a magician with no hat, no rabbit, no wand, no assistant to cut in half, no, like no cards, no nothing, no scarves to pull out of, nothing. No, somebody is left with nothing to impress illusions with. They're completely stripped down. Show's over. 9 of Swords, 10 of Swords. In this case, maybe even locked down. So this could even, practically speaking, it could be a con artist. That they just had to hit one more lick, one more mark. And this was supposed to be the one. You know, for con artists, it's always, it can never be like, this is the last one. This is the one where I retire. It's always one too many for you to get caught, right? But that's what it's given, practically speaking, when I'm talking about a snake oil salesman, a wizard, a magician, an illusionist. Could be somebody that changes identities or assumes different identities, or is just a con man that goes from place to place, town to town, mark to mark. And they were good enough at what they do that, like I said, word wouldn't travel so fast to precede them as it has now. And like I said earlier, it's because someone accelerated their efforts. We saw the Knight of Pentacles, which is kind of like slow money. You know, it's steady, it's easy. It's dependable, more or less. Somebody accelerated, or maybe got greedy or overambitious with that Knight of Wands, and when they did that, they put themselves under more of, like, put themselves on the radar. You know, they did more. They took on more marks than what they could really manage at once. And it was only a matter of time before the word got out of who they really were. So much so that when they showed up to the next town, the next mark, the next target, it's like now the equivalent of somebody's face already being plastered over social media, or on the news, or in the newspaper, or whatever time frame we're talking about here. It's like the jig is up type of energy. Damn. World card, wow, that's the end of that. And the Lovers. The end and a new beginning. The King of Swords. So what is given is that, especially up under these two cards here, is that it's the end of this deception and a new beginning or retribution for those that were disadvantaged with the Two of Pentacles. And also in that case as well, those that, you know, the upside is that those that may have been so-called victimized gained a great deal of ascended knowledge about their vulnerabilities or their ignorance or their naivete. that now can't really be regressed at this point, because it's like, you know, once you've been broken out of being naive or being vulnerable a certain type of way by life experience, you can never really go backwards from that. Like, you can't unknow what you know by way of what you've been exposed to, or what's been exposed to you, whichever way it goes. So here is this ascended identity here with the Lover's card, where, you know, it sucks to be the con man, but it's a good day for the mark if they actually learn their lesson in light of their experiences. Because you've now been reconditioned to choose more wisely, to raise your boundaries, elevate your standards, you know, educate yourself, if nothing else, on the true worth of your value at this point, not to allow it to be taken advantage of again. And this could be a whole range of things. Like, I hear it in so many ways, but I'm like waiting. It's like double dutch right here. I'm like waiting for Spirit to tell me which way to jump into it, because it's deeper than what I'm saying. And then we got the King of Swords here, which, yeah, as I thought, is the energy that I would say is like the Magician. Looks seemingly, you know, harmless, honorable, safe, someone you might even feel secure with in the upright, but behind that facade is the Knight of Swords. Somebody rageful, maybe even vengeful, entitled, impulsive, perhaps even corrupt in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, look, and here's the Emperor. That is more absorbed by the ideal of power or their pursuit of it than anything else. And here's the Justice again. And there's the Ace of Swords. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Strength card and the Five of Pentacles. Oh yeah, because I didn't get very far, that's why. But yeah, the strength of, yeah, that's what has become the threat of, you know, the impact and someone's livelihood, you know, because it's been built on illusions and also built on the contingency of the what's another word I would want to use? The gullibleness, is that a word? I guess, of others being more gullible, or just, you know, less enlightened, I'll say, to the natures of illusions or illusions on sight, because there's strength here, because there's advancement, there's evolution, is why that business has been shut down. It's been this livelihood has been kind of bankrupt. this profession. Yeah. Because, I mean, what's a good, and even these days, it's like, do people even go to magic shows? I see, like, magic has evolved in such a way that I see illusionists on like, well, I guess they're probably more on TikTok, but sometimes I see shorts and stuff on YouTube of illusionists that do, you know, express their craft virtually now. So it's like somebody's magic is outdated. Their hustle, their production is dated, and the audience is no longer captivated by it. Yeah. Well, okay. And this speaks to, like, yeah, like, this speaks to, damn it, how do I say this? Establishments that have advanced themselves a great deal, but again, by way of corrupted efforts or corruptive means, exploitive means. Yeah, because this is giving me the energy of someone that would be willing to exploit religion or exploit their influence, their power, their prestige, their impact, their position for material return. So we've gone from, like, a faulty magician here or wizard to now a false preacher or prophet, maybe. Ooh. What do you want me to say? So I've been getting hella downloads, but I don't really know how to express them yet. So and it's kind of sort of in the vein of Juneteenth, ironically. So I know I'm supposed to say something, but I don't know how to say it delicately. But it's definitely, you know, the exposure of the powers, the exploitive powers that be and now were, or soon to be were, if nothing else, that are taking a hard hit, like a major fall from grace. And there's been this surge, as it was in the beginning, spread to try to ignite a new ritual of, to initiate a new ritual of control. But as I've kind of been saying, those powers are no longer as effective as they once were because the audience is no longer so captive. It's like, we've seen these tricks before. We know how this works. We know the secrets behind the trade. We know the outcome. We know that it's not real. We know that it's all an illusion. And I keep picking up on something really pronounced getting ready to happen that is really going to be like the curtain call, you know, where it's like one last trick, one last, you know, from my last trick type of energy, as in that insistent, almost stubborn, obsessive energy to capture the audience again. There's going to be an attempt that is going to fall very, very flat. I just don't know exactly what that gets to look like. Perhaps that's the, you know, the surprise for one and all. But for sure, the intention is to restore old order and to reclaim advantage over resources and prosperity by way of the disadvantage of people. Recognizing, as we all recognize now, you know, or most those of us that matter, you know, to do so, recognize that we are the wealth. We are the gold. Here's that elevated perspective here with the world card. But for whatever reason, for reasons that matter, and we saw the devil card, so for reasons that even to some degree make sense, there is just a refusal to relent. But that refusal, as is shown here, is ultimately going to be the demise. It compels one to have to, no matter how much invested energy there has been, to have to just turn around and go another way. But the other way is so uncertain compared to what has been, you know, it's like a magician, like I said, the difference between, you know, illusionists and now magicians that are like on digital platforms. It's like you don't even know how they're doing what they're doing. It's a whole nother level of magic. But it's like magicians that refuse to reform their trades and tricks. Maybe refuse to retire them altogether and to learn new ones. And that's for the best of all, because the trades and tricks that have been recycled for so long are clearly of no value in spirit and in truth, or there wouldn't be a need for reform, right? Or at least they've expired in their effects. So it's like if these old world wizards, warlocks, magicians, practitioners, powers that be, however you see them, however they call themselves ultimately with the Hierophant card, which has been coming out a lot, they're being forced to what's the right word, to like I can't find the word, but they're being forced to more or less build themselves up again. But the difference is here is that the difference in this time now is that it can't be off of the backs of others or off of the energy that's not innate or even real. You know, in this case, real materialized real internalized power. It can't be outsourced. It can't be manipulated. It can't be illusioned, you know. And that's the challenge, because that's been the trick of the trade, or the trade of the trick, for so long, that now having to learn a new method really does ultimately determine the survival of the fittest. Now but those that ultimately incited that ideal amongst the masses to play by those rules in a certain arena, so to speak, but exalted themselves above that fray and above those rules of engagement by methods that were, you know, unknown to the masses, now are being engaged with the very, how can I say this? Now they're being like, they're having to play the same game that everyone else has had to play, but even with less of an advantage now, because a lot of the energy and favor and advantages that they took the privilege of liberty of, don't apply in the same way. There's no longer such a void in advantage one over another. You know, it's like really everybody has more or less an equal playing field, except those that have been disadvantaged have learned the game in such a way by their experiences to now elevate their skill level, you know, in the same arena, but with the elevated mindset and elevated understanding, perspective, vantage point. Whereas those that took advantage of that disadvantage now have been demoted to some degree, if you want to say it, or just it's been balanced, because those that were at a lower point are now raised, and those that were taking advantage at a higher point no longer have it. So now there is the forge of balance and equality, by which it truly is a matter of skill and spiritual like spiritual affluence. It's like literally considering like gladiator or some type of Olympian game, so to speak, where you had some athletes that were taking enhancement pills or enhancement energies, or they were cheating, pretty much. Let's just say they were cheating and were finding their way to the winner circle at the advantage of the of winning acknowledgement or achievement over others, but the others weren't privy to the same cheat codes and shortcuts. You know, as a matter of fact, they were even more disadvantaged to the point where it wasn't even a fair playing field. All types of obstacles and maybe even poison in their water and their food, and they had facilities that weren't really of high grade to train in or train on, yet still somehow anyway they still elevated, which is the gotcha. But now that the universe is leveling out to the point where all are gladiators in their own right, it's like what strength has been gained on account of disadvantage for those whom were disadvantaged is now looming over the energies of those that took shortcuts, so they never really built their strength. It was all built unfairly or on the backs of others or the disadvantage of others, if that makes sense. On someone else's merit, but not on their own. So now that the games are still the games, it's like, and everybody is entitled only to what they inhabit and what is inherent to them naturally, organically. It's a true test of strengths, because it's like, now how will you fare when all you have is you, your own energy as your force fuel to drive you. You weren't, working out in the gym just off of adrenaline alone. You had enhancers. You had the most supreme facilities, state-of-the-art facilities, hella resources, maybe investors, or, you get what I'm saying here. There was a great void in advantage, and now that is no more. And instead of those former Olympian champions now accepting that reality and training in their best regard, they're still trying to impose, to regress back into that old game mentality of suppression for those that they can't beat in the fitness that they're currently in, because they didn't work hard enough, honestly. And they also, to some degree, can't join because they haven't earned the right to do so. And now it's exposed that they haven't earned the right to do so honorably. It's exposed that somebody's been cheating all along, type of energy, didn't really earn the gold medal that they ultimately adorned themselves with, and tricked everyone else to believe that they rightfully deserved. So it's like this dissension here, where it's like you not only do they have to retrain and get it honestly, if they can, if they're even able to, they also have to watch while the losers now start to take their rightful place on those winning podiums, just getting the privileges that ultimately that were withheld from them, but also that were due to them all, that were due to them all along, but also that they honestly, rigorously worked for, even in conditions that they shouldn't have had to, and they still persevered. Yeah. So that's the transfer of wealth and power that's happening in real time. because depending on what side you were on, everyone had had the expectation to train for this shift in consciousness. So no matter what your lineage is, what team you were playing for, where you're from, your culture, whatever it was, everyone had their own set of, let's say, generational cycles or curses to break that ultimately were your training regimen to prepare you for this disbursement of power on a super stage, so to speak, i.e. on a supernatural level. And some had a generational curse of greed and manipulation and, some corrupt covenants to break in order to present, and some have done it, to present themselves worthy for this upgrade of evolution, as we're all being, we all have the potential to access. Some, as I said, did well with that and superseded their lineage, their culture, that what was just known to them, that just cycles that were known to them to recreate. Some took, detours and side roads in a good way against tradition and convention and created a different outcome. Some did. Some fell right into that cycle to recreate that condition all over again. Some even against their own personal will, what they felt was right or just because it's just always what's been done. Some had a different challenge of cycle and curse to break, some of which was fair to them by way of unworthiness and and being naive, maybe too trusting, maybe susceptible to self-sabotage. But then there were some parts of that training ground, again, as I said, that were corrupted. And there was inflictions of extra training that was imposed upon some that they shouldn't have had to overcome, they shouldn't have had to work through, and many didn't make it through as a result. But for those titans, Olympians, champions that did, they're even more victorious, more adorned for their tenacity. But it also, in some regard, I feel, levels the score for those that did their best, having no idea what they were up against, but still didn't quite take their mark, on as a champion that they may have under more fair circumstances. I feel like the balancing is happening between all of those levels and even others that I may not even be speaking on, where it's like some you had to do, you were faced with the challenge, you were faced with your circumstances, your rules of engagement, the game, strategy, so on and so forth. Well, you picked your strategy, so on and so forth. You may not have had all the right, best resources. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Whatever the case may be, you worked with what you had. But how you worked through that, what your motivation was, your mindset, and your outcome has all been taken into account. And some had a greater advantage than others by lineage, by heritage, but then there was also by corruption. And those that had a less of an advantage, in multiple different ways, there's a different account that's taken in regards to what was accomplished there as well, individually and collectively across the board. But for whatever it's worth, it matters to the universal order of evolution as it is now, that corruption cease and that there is exposure and revelation where all parties are privy to the rules, or privy to I guess the history of the games, so to speak. As a matter of fact, just recently I went back and watched Hunger Games, like the first one, Ballad of Songbirds and Snake or something like that, whatever the first one is that they just did. And it's like everybody now, and it does like open up your mind, like, oh, this is where it all started. So now everyone is privileged to the knowledge of where it all began, what has taken place in between the beginning and now, and with that comes the advantage of how we all get to proceed forward, whether it be those in retribution for the disadvantages they created or contributed to, those that challenged that convention in their own right, those that were susceptible to, that really kind of took it laying down the challenges and, just were resolved to lose, almost giving up to some degree, or just conforming to the imbalance of the game itself, like just kind of laying down, you know what I'm trying to say. And those that met the challenge of champion to overcome, even in the ways that they couldn't and would never truly win, they still found a way to champion a victory in their own regard. So it's like, I feel like I'm not saying this right, which is why I was hesitant. But maybe you feel me, maybe you don't. The point of the matter is, nothing is exclusive to race or culture as we've known it to be, the division and creation. It's about the spirit of the matter now, the spirit of the man, the spirit of the matter. And everyone's soul has been tried in some way, shape, or form. And now is the revelation of the truth of all, individually and collectively. And I would like to think that because so many, all that's really been missing is knowledge and awareness. That's what's been withheld through the illusions, not even knowing where you were disadvantaged, not fully, maybe having an ideal, but never really being able to know exactly where your progress was cut short, or whom may have even been behind it, or that the opponent that you've been losing to for all of your life, and perhaps generations before you, actually was a cheater, in the grand scheme of things. And that gets to be reflective in a way that allows you to see more of the winning aspect of you than you even had a conception of. You knew you were doing something right, because there was still some advancement, even if it was a matter of endurance, hanging in there and not throwing in the towel, finishing the race to some extent. You may still have not known just how imbalanced and unfair the odds were stacked against you, and that will compel even more confidence in the next leg of the journey, or the next games, or the sequel or trilogy of it all in creation, because now you have an awareness that heightens your advantage even beyond what your abilities may even afford, if that makes sense. There's now a different confidence and security and empowerment, a new force fuel behind what was always there, more or less, what has been strengthened on account of the training experience, and now what's been affirmed in recollection. All things being exposed and clearly expressed now. But that definitely puts the cheater out of business, though. They are either forced to, as I said, like to reconfigure the way they play the game and do so by honorable merits, or to drop out, to forfeit altogether. Either way. And that's the challenge for those that have been on that side, that are still insistent and relentless about having it their way, is who will really survive this shift in the test of time, because there is no having it that way anymore. So if you're not willing to elevate your game as well, and this is more so in the spiritual sense, then you'll be disqualified. Whew. Wow. Wow. You'll be disqualified. Eliminated. I've said enough. All right, and this is still the holding on with the Four of Pentacles, holding on to that mentality, that coin, that control that has diminished from what it once was anyway. At this point, it's not even the same. It's diminished, and it's what's the right word? Like, it's dispersed, like it's broken in pieces now. It's no longer one whole thing. It's fractionated, maybe is the word. So it's not even as easily held, let alone withheld, with minimal effort. It takes a great deal of concentration and almost like stretching yourself thin to try to maintain a fraction of control and power and authority that was once possessed. And some are still doing it and are still going to do it unto their own demise, perhaps. But this is a clear depiction of how little it's worth in the grand scheme of things. That there's still access to this on a supernatural level, but you just have to play the game differently now. You have to play the game honestly, period. You can't cut corners, you can't withhold the rules, you can't withhold information, you can't hoard certain things for yourself. It's like everybody gets to play fairly now, or not at all, or literally ride the bench as he's doing. Interesting. There's a sun. Wow. Back again. Because the universe is just on a different wavelength now. Literally with Aquarius. Out of Pisces into Aquarius. No longer about the illusion of what you may believe and being able to delude others by projection of what they should believe. Now everyone is on a I know Aquarius vibes. It's a certainty now, and there's evidence to support or will be enough to affirm. And that is the ordinance of the universe. So anything that's pushing back against that, to regress evolution, to suppress creativity, productivity, prosperity to some menial form for their own self-gratification particularly, is in grave danger. It's just like you just can't buck up against the universe that way. It may have seemed as though you were empowered and authorized to do that once upon a time. The evidence, supports that you absolutely were. Unfortunately, when you consider the history, or consider how I started all this about the idea of Juneteenth and how literally slaves were free long before they got the word that they were already entitled to their freedom, their liberation, still working in the servitude of their masters until some noble soldier finally got around to letting them know, oh, you don't have to do this anymore. And I'm sure it was still a transition and something that was hard to really accept. And that's why I'm going to post on both sides, mind you, and that's why I'm going to post Josh Johnson's bit, his comedy bit about that, because what he gave is the perspective of the master and the master family that is like arguing in the kitchen, like, we can't do. The wife is like, we can't do this anymore. It's illegal now. And he's like, what do you want me to do? Go out there and say like, sorry, oops, my bad. You can all go now. Like, we are outnumbered, so there's a dilemma. He did a really good job of kind of illustrating the dilemma of such a grave, gross shift in convention and tradition, as you would never really consider it. Because the idea is that maybe some owners did want to tell their folks, you can go now. Of course, there was the selfish aspect of it that they didn't want to relieve their free labor. But to some degree, there was a bout of fear with that devil card that showed up about what the reactions, maybe even repercussions may be against them, because considering how did you treat those folks when they were under your thumb and under your dictation. Now that's a whole new consideration that some people don't really want to face. And that's at any vantage point. It could be a boss to their employees. It could be, and now, you get laid off and now you got to go be, a CEO to their subordinates. And now you get laid off in this economy and have to go take a lesser position where now you answer to somebody and your boss is a jerk, so it plays out in different ways. But also on the high end, of energy that you, on account of your sowing, you also are due a reciprocal harvest as well. But as I've said, the difference here, the duality, is that there are some that know that they haven't sown honorably with the privilege that they've had. And now it comes a point in time where you can no longer use those same methods. And now it's like, now what do you do? Now the master more or less becomes not really the slave, but the master becomes his own sovereign citizen at this point. But instead of having the advantage of other people's labor, other people's energy, other people's hard, blood, sweat, and tears for free in any way, shape, and form, because as Josh always also said, which was funny, I'm not coming down on anybody culturally or anything, because everybody that we celebrate this day for is not even here anymore. White, black, whatever. So this is not a matter, he's like, don't be weird, don't get weird. When I'm not aggressing towards you as if you've owned any slaves or anything like that. But the point is that we all have a lineage, a past, that we've been charged, particularly in this breath of life, to reform to some degree and to do something different in light of. And some, everybody's challenge was different for sure, but everybody's advantage was starkly different, and everybody didn't acknowledge and respect that advantage in a way that is honorable unto universal standards. And the only thing that's happening now is just a fair balance of all of those frequencies, nothing more, nothing less. So the only thing that would be productive in this sense is to accept the truth of your advancement at this point, and now be willing to submit to the process of enhancement for your holistic evolution, not just the illusion of it or the fabrication of it, but really what it means to be a champion, a victor, a sovereign being, a super spirit from the inside out. And like I said, for some, just the sheer idea of that is agonizing. It's unfathomable. It's not impossible though. It's just a hard pill to swallow, and certainly for some, a hard process to submit to. But those that do so, whether it be begrudgingly or willingly, will definitely, I think, find themselves being satisfied with the ultimate results within themselves and within the new life that they get to live in the light. I do believe that, and I do believe that many are going to champion that challenge, regardless of the stakes and the odds. Hell, it's been done before. Just look to your neighbor, your disadvantaged neighbor, your opponent, so to speak, and you can see the evidence of what it looks like to achieve, to even be a champion under great stress and horrible odds. So if anything, like I said, the evidence is there that it can be done. But certainly the challenge is more in the soul and in the spirit of the man than the materialization or physicality of him at this point, whomever you are. So take your marks as you resonate. Congratulations to those that have been, fighting the good fight for the past, the present, and the future, running their race, staying in their lane, training honorably and honestly, adhering to the rules of the game, and, in some ways, setting universal records, unprecedented records, even with great disadvantage. Congratulations to you. Your reward is already in your possession. Certainly by way of the acknowledgement and awareness of your true power and strength. Now you know that there's no insurmountable feat. And if there hasn't been up until this point, I can prophetically say there never will be again. So, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, as always, I leave you with Peace.